Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further.
Good to have you on the show. This is your host, Omobola Stephen, on the Library by Omobola Stephen. Now on the show, focus on experts and professionals who have disruptive mindset conversations to share with my audience on topics and subjects on the personal development and self-improvement. Been great having these guests share profound insight on the show. Now, it gave me great pleasure to have David Edwards, who is an author and a consultant. Welcome with me on today's show, David Edwards.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, Omobola.
It's a pleasure having you, David Edwards. Now, I'm looking forward to an impactful time on the show. We'll be talking more on personal development, which is very dear to my heart. So, David, what is it about your epiphany experience that you like to share with my audience?
Well, before we started recording, as I mentioned, I've worked in healthcare for 35 years, and it's really a journey. It's been a process, if you will. It's a service of people, human beings serving other human beings. And I love that. And I love what I've been able to learn in the process of a human being helping and serving other human beings, as we are really, everything that we do may not be specifically focused on personal development or human development, but everything that we do has an aspect of human development, of influencing this process of who we are becoming.
Awesome. So, David, values are really nice, right? But they are not really necessary. This got me thinking. What do you like to say to this?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry, the sound flipped out on me there.
Oh, all right. My question is, values are really nice, but not necessary. It got me thinking. I would like you to share more insight on this.
You know, it's been interesting. I was in the process of researching my book. I've always felt values were important, but I never really understood how important they are. And the research was just almost mind-boggling. And so, as one of the core foundations of our own authentic selves, of who we are as an individual human being, we talk about authenticity, for example, you know, in like business literature, we talk about being an authentic leader a lot, right? And so it turns out that our values, understanding our values, is a core part of understanding who we are. It's a core part of being authentic. It's also essential to our well-being, the sense that my life is on track, that it's moving in the right direction. And so it's really the sense of our values. And in my book, I talk about making them powerful. So we can have a vague sense of values. Like, I think being honest is important, right? It's kind of like saying, I am hungry. I may be hungry, but unless I can be more explicit about that, it's going to be difficult to act on it, right? So if I say I'm hungry and I think that I want some Mexican food and I really want a burrito with chicken, and all of a sudden I'm getting it explicit so that I can then act on it. I can make that actionable in my life. And what we need to do is do the same thing with our values. So we take this idea that I have a value of being honest, and I make it powerful. I make it actionable. And there's 3 steps to doing that. Would you like to hear what those 3 steps are? The first step is to define it. For example, if I'm honest, what does it mean to me, right, to be honest? And there's no right or wrong here, right? This is a personal thing. It's my own personal value. So it's how I understand it right now today where I am. So I might say being honest means that I tell the truth every time. And so we define that. The second thing we do is that we say, what does that behavior look like? Right? So then I might, in a very brief sentence or two, describe being honest for me looks like when I talk to you, I'm not going to tell you a lie. That's what it looks like to me. And then the third thing we do, as you say, what does that, why do I care? Why does it matter? Right? And so then, and again, it's individual, it's where you are right now, because this is your own personal value. But you might say something like, it matters because if I'm honest every time to every person, I never have to fear and I never have to regret. And I don't have to remember if I told one story to this person and a different story to that person, because I just told the honest truth every time. So we define it, we describe what it looks like in behavior, and then we say why it matters, why that's important. And if we do that for each of our core values, not the 20 values that we might have, but like our top 5 core personal values, what it does is it takes those values, it makes them actionable, and it makes them powerful in our lives. And if we do that, we've created the first foundation to our sense of authenticity of who we are as a person. We have created a foundation of our well-being, a sense that our life is on track, and also of our personal motivation, that which gets us up in the morning, that keeps us going during the hard times.
Okay. Bottom line, values are not that necessary, isn't it?
Bottom line is values are essential. Understanding and making our values explicit, making them powerful and actionable in our life is essential to maintaining our motivation and being successful.
David, what matters more in life? Is it where you start on the journey of life or your trajectory? What do you think is more important?
Well, that's a good question. Let me ask you, is this video and audio or audio only?
Video and audio.
It's both. So if you can see my arm, it's a vertical line. We'll pretend this is a vertical line. If you're Prince Harry, right, who's what, second in line, as I understand from all the social media stuff, right? You might have started your life way up here, right? If you're David Edwards, you may have started your life way down here, right? The son of a poor construction worker, right? In the middle of Washington State. And so I can't control that, right? A part of this is this idea I shouldn't focus on things I don't control. I wasn't born a royal prince in England. I was born middle of nobody. And so where I start in life doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is what I am doing, what I choose to do with my life today. And that is a sense of trajectory. So if I start my life way up here and I'm just coasting through life, maybe I'm going down a little bit, but I was so far high up on the bar that it still looks like my life is pretty good. But if I start down here and my trajectory is up, you can see that at some point in our lives, our paths are going to cross. So over the course of a lifetime, where I am today, where you are, where your listeners, your viewers are today, does not matter. because what got us here is in the past. The thing that we control is the present as we pursue the vision of our desired future. And so what I'm doing in the present determines my trajectory, and that will determine where I am in the future. And so where you are does not matter. What does matter is your trajectory. What are you doing today in pursuit of your worthy or worthwhile vision?
All right. Now you mentioned about not focusing on things that one can control. Now I'd like you to delve more into this. Now, in trying to live a life that produces outcomes, is it right for a person to have control or exact control on events, right? Or allow events to play out themselves?
Yeah, well, there's really two things, and the Alcoholics Anonymous, they have their 12-step program. One of the things they recognize is that there's things that are out of my control, and there are things that are within my control. So if I'm having a conversation with somebody and they lose their temper, maybe yell some mad, nasty things at me, I cannot control that, right? It is out of my control. I don't have any strings to pull, but what I can control is how I react, or what I prefer to use is the word respond, right? So have you ever taken medicine, Omobola? Have you ever taken medicine?
That's such an interesting question.
Yeah.
I have.
Okay.
But
So
I don't program my body to be used to medicine. Yes.
well, this is good. I try
Mhm.
to take care of my body as well. I think of my body as a white bald temple. And so, but most of us have taken medicine at some point, right? Some kind of medicine. For example, I had a bad ear infection a few weeks ago, and so I took drops, right? And what we want to do is respond to the medicine, right? There's this sense that the medicine is doing what it's supposed to. What we don't want is a reaction to the medicine, right? So when we use the word reaction, like in medicine, you say, well, man, your ear turned red and puffed up. You had a bad reaction, right? That sense that that thing happened was not what's expected, and it's kind of out of my control, right? You'll forgive me, I like to use healthcare metaphors. I've worked in healthcare for so long. So when we think about life and control, right, what we want to do is not just react to the things that are going on in life. In psychology, they talk about system 1 and system 2. System 1 is this natural kind of knee-jerk, non-thinking, reactive way of living. I'll give you an example. When I first started working, I worked in a warehouse. My coworker, older man than me, but much younger than I am today. So, he was in his mid-30s. I was 18 years old. We worked together in the warehouse, and we had a boss. He got mad at the boss one day, and he just turned around and punched the boss in the face. And you might imagine that this reaction to what the boss said to him was not a smart thing, and he got fired. So I learned, never punch the boss in the face, amongst other things. And so he reacted to the stimulus of this conversation, or of these, comments from the boss, which probably weren't very kind or supportive. What he might have done if he was working within the space of what he could control, right? He can't control what the boss says, but he can control how he responds to what the boss says versus reacting, which is almost always going to be negative. And so what we want to do is live in what they call, as much as possible, in system 2, which is our thinking brain, right? It's this idea that there's a stimulus. What do I do with the stimulus? And if I just not think about it and react to it, you're going to put your foot in the mouth, you're going to say the wrong thing, you're going to do the wrong thing, versus we take a moment, we pause and we think, and then we respond. We want to be responsible in our life, not reactionary. And if we do that as a core character trait, we're going to be much more successful in our life, whatever it is we're trying to do.
Thank you for your insight on today's show, David. Now, going forward, I'd like you to share more insight on the 10 foundations of personal motivations. And how do you arrive at these conclusions?
So I was the CEO of a small health center. We'd been very successful in having very good quality outcomes and in growing our practice. People wanted to come receive our services to help them on their healthcare journey. And we outgrew our building. And so we were building and designing and building a new building. And I had this series of epiphanies. Excuse me. And so the first one was that even though we had a really good care team with a really powerful clinical model that engaged with you as a whole person, mind, mouth, body, spirit, your whole person, I realized that no matter how good we were, no matter how good the technology was, the physical building, the people, the tools that we use to try to help people, no matter how good we were, unless we could help the patient to be a more effective captain of that care team that's there to support and help them, unless they were the captain of that team and functioning at a high level, we would limit our success. We would limit how effective we could be. And so we wanted to be super effective. And so I started thinking about it and asking these team members, well, what does it mean? What does it mean to be the captain of the care team? And so we started discussing this, and we realized it was all around change, right? It was like the second epiphany. The idea is that, as we were talking about early, we can spend our lives reacting to things and probably going nowhere. Or we can spend our life responsible and in control of our lives, determining the direction, if you will, the trajectory of our lives. And if we could help our patients to do that more successfully, everything that we do would be magnified in their life and in their health outcomes, be it mental or physical or oral health or whatever else we were helping them with. And so what I started to try to do was say, well, okay, it's all about human success, right? It's all about human change. Well, how do people change? And being human beings, it's not like a 1, 2, 3, happy day, we're done, right? This is a complicated journey. And there are a lot of different theories around change. And so I, being a reformed chief financial officer, I built a spreadsheet. And I put them in their component parts in a list, and I just looked at it as a whole. And I realized at the bottom, if you will, at the core, the foundation of every human change model was this idea of personal motivation. Now, this isn't the outward motivation, right? If somebody offers you a bonus for making more bicycles in a day, that's a form of motivation, and it can be quite powerful. But what I'm talking about is this internal motivation that helps you live your own best life, your own authentic life, as effectively as you can. And so I started studying personal motivation because, once again, we're dealing with human beings and nothing is that simple. And so one of the core foundations of human motivation we've already talked about, it's our values, right? It's really foundational. I like to use a natural metaphor. So think of a tree, like a fruit tree. And we all want to bear a lot of fruit, right? If you like cherries, we want lots of cherries on that fruit tree. But that kind of outward success is really the end of the journey, right? That's the end of the season that we get the fruit. And you've got the other 11 months to prepare to have that successful outcome. So what I'm talking about when I talk about personal motivation is this preparation to have the kind of outcomes that we all want by focusing on those component elements, those essential foundations that create naturally and normally those kinds of outcomes that we are all seeking. And so one of those foundations, think of it as the roots, is our values. And then we get up into the trunk and we have the principles of self-efficacy. This is the exercise of control over your life. And so we start with awareness, a sense of where am I? What is my trajectory, if you will? Learning, intent, planning, and doing. So these 6 elements or principles, that's like the trunk of the tree. So you've got your roots, you've got your trunk, and then as we move from the trunk into the branches, where eventually we're going to get all that fruit, we look at the principles of self-compassion, self-kindness, our common humanity. And in my book, I call it mindlessness as a bit of a way to get around some of our biases. You know, when we talk about being mindful, people start thinking about candles and yoga pants and stuff like that. And candles and yoga pants are great. Throw some incense in there and a few Ayurvedic terms, and it's all wonderful. But it's not necessary, right? We can all make a choice to use our mind or not. So the choice to be mindful is simply the choice to use your mind. And there are a lot of different ways that we can do that. So I want to kind of get beyond those biases, but those final 3 principles are the balance to massive self-efficacy or self-control, or this exercise of control over our life. And so it's these 3 areas and those 10 principles: values, awareness, learning, intent, planning, doing, common humanity, self-kindness, and mindfulness. That's those combination of principles and then the skills, you know, that we might develop in each of those areas creates this personal motivation. And with these things aligned, right, we have aligned our lives with the principles of human success. It's not only the principles that help us get things done, these are the principles that help us then connect with other people. These are the principles that in the face of massive success, keep us grounded. And in the face of massive challenges and disappointment, keep us hopeful. They serve us during the hard times and they serve us during the good times. They are essential foundations for every human life.
David Hillwards, your latest self-help book, New You, only new, right, as incredible personal development tools to help us by. Tell me, what are some major takeaways you'd like to share with my audience?
So I think we live in a, if you will, a mechanical metaphor. I can't tell you how many times if you read business literature or you read just like job descriptions, they say, we want you to drive change, drive progress, drive innovation, right? These kinds of words that we use as if we are all automobiles. So I don't know if you're married, Omobola, or, you know, the Ogdens, if you're married or you're in a relationship. If you went to your partner and you said, get in the car and drive me to the store and get me a pound of hamburger and a gallon of milk, and if you do that in the next 8 minutes, you're a good partner. Are they going to respond really positively to this kind of command and control If you do what I want you to do, you're a good one kind of thing. Most likely not, right? Because we're human beings, we're people. And so we live, though, in this kind of mechanical metaphor. And so I think we have to recognize that. And we want to make a commitment to say, you know what, I'm a human being. Omobola is a human being. Everybody who's listening is a human being or watching, right? And so let's make a commitment to interact as human beings. And let's incorporate the principles of human success in our life at the same time that we incorporate principles of, say, business success or academic success or government success, whatever our role is as a profession, which consumes so much of our life, right? Podcasting success in Omobola's case, right? So there are principles and tools to help you be successful. But fundamental to all of these is this fact, the reality of life, that we're all human beings. So let's treat each other that way, with efficacy, consistent with our values, with kindness and common respect as human beings. And if we'll do that, I think we find our lives will be much better, and our influence in our communities will be much more positive and much greater. I think that's really foundational.
Right. Thank you so much, and David Edwards, for your incredible insight on today's show. David, do you have any projects you'd like to share with my audience?
I don't have any projects right now, honestly. I'd like to share an affirmation. Would that be all right?
Right.
I was thinking about it this morning, and consistent with the principles of self-kindness. I would like to propose this idea. This is an affirmation. I practice being the person I hope to become. So I practice being the person I hope to become. This is a recognition that I am an imperfect human being, that I'm on a trajectory of my own creation, but not as an island, right? I'm influenced by all these things going on. So sometimes things don't work out, or sometimes they take longer than I might have hoped, right? So this idea of life isn't like, oh yes, I have this enlightenment, I'm perfect now, right? It's a lifelong journey. It's a process. So we're practicing. This isn't perfection, it's practice. And what I'm doing as I'm practicing, being the person that I want to become. So that says, I know what I want to become, right? I have these goals of who I want to become, and I'm working my way there slowly but surely over the course of my life.
Oh, right. So help me God.
So anyways, I'll leave that affirmation with you as a gift.
Thank you so much for that gift, David. You'd like to share your social media handles and your website to my audience?
Thank you. So my website is very simple. It's www.davidredwards.com. So it's just my name. I talk about my book, New You, Who Knew? And I have a blog where I share some insights that I've been able to gain or that others have gained, and I get to share on my blog. And I'm on Instagram for the more, business side of things. And you can find me on Facebook, David R. Edwards, as an author Facebook page as well.
Awesome. Good to know. Excuse me. It's been a great time having you on the show. Really have a worthwhile time. Listen to your expertise on today's show, focusing on personal development and also on your interesting book, New You, Who Knew? Wish you best of luck once again in all your endeavors.
Thank you, Omobola, and thank you everybody for listening and watching. I hope you picked up some nugget that makes your life better than it was before.
Sure, they did. You'd like to catch up with any missed episodes of Live Well Live by Omobola Stephen, you can do so on any podcast cross-promotion platforms or any podcast distribution platforms you bump into online, and do have an amazing time If you'd like to be a guest on the show, sharing disruptive mindset conversations on any topics or subjects on the personal development and self-improvement, you can send a mail to me at omobola@outlook.com. Perhaps you'd like to get to know more about me and what I've been up to lately. You can check me on my website, www.omobolastv.online. Now, I'll be looking forward to connecting with you. We can have a great show together and provide incredible insight for the world to learn. Till I come your way, I need you to be good. Sending my love to you. Bye for now.